Data security is very important for any size merchant. And whether you're large, small, or medium, you need to make sure that you're secure, you're compliant with Visa's security requirements, the payment card industry data security standard. And for the most part, the smaller merchants, although they have smaller systems and fewer computers, they still need to have the same amount of controls in place to protect themselves from any type of intrusion or theft of data. We've had breaches on smaller merchants. The last 6 breaches we've investigated in Canada have been on small businesses. And one in particular was a restaurant that suffered a breach. There was an intrusion through their computer system, through the modem that they had connected. And the intruder came in unauthorized and found magnetic stripe, the transactional data on their computer system. And that data was stolen, and the result of that data being stolen turned out into counterfeit fraud to a tune of $1 million of counterfeit fraud. And the impact to the merchant, in addition to brand reputation risk of your customers knowing that you've been breached, you could also be, and they could also be responsible for the $1 million worth of fraud that resulted from the breach. And because they were in a non-compliant state, they were storing magstripe data, which no merchant is allowed to do. That put them in a non-compliant state, and they were subject to fines from Visa for being non-compliant. In addition to that, we always do a forensic investigation. Anytime there's some type of computer crime or network breach, a forensic investigation is required, and that is the cost of the merchant. In this particular case with the restaurant, the forensic bill was $17,000, and that's something that they would have to pay for. From a small merchant's perspective, some of them are using computer software that they're purchasing to process credit card transactions, and they need to ensure that their software is compliant as well. And we've created a specific set of requirements called the Payment Application Data Security Standard to focus on the software. And it's the responsibility of not the small merchant, but the software developer, the software vendor, to ensure that it is compliant with the security requirements. And they need to sell that software then to these merchants. So if you're a merchant, small merchant, or any size merchant using payment application software to process transactions, contact the vendor who sold it to you. Make sure that it is compliant with the security requirements, Payment Application Data Security Standard. The most important thing, the first thing that a merchant of any size can do is look at the data that they're storing and do a business rationale, a business review to determine, do I need to store all this information? And if the answer is no, then get rid of it. Store the absolute minimum that you need to store to process a credit card transaction. Any further storage, either from a period of time or any time, is extending your liability for risk, for a compromise, a theft of data that would put you in a vulnerable financial position.